Clyde Lewis, you're listening to Ground Zero. You know, I want to hear from people tonight. If there's anybody out there that can tell me about how maybe they came in contact with a cult, maybe a satanic cult that you would consider to be dark. Do you practice Santa Muerte? I want to hear about what you really believe. I don't want to sit here and make judgment calls on what it is. I mean, I only know what I research. I mean, it could be something that is as simple as an old folk religion, but I really want to know more about Santa Muerte. They're saying it. I mean, saying it, a lot of people are joining this group, or they're joining the folk religion and they're practicing the folk religion. And, you know, I don't know if my previous caller literally did dabble in Santeria, but, you know, because, of course, this whole mass thing kind of threw me off. But, I mean, I'd really like to hear from you tonight if you have had any experience with this or if you know something about it, because, you know, it'd be nice. I mean, I have a lot of people I have confidence in that did call earlier that may have, you know, had an experience with this, but I'm sure many people have come in contact with something they knew was wrong right off the bat and how they felt trapped, but they finally escaped. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We have a few lines open tonight, so if you want to call in, you're more than welcome to do so. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
A patron saint of death? You may not have heard of her, but recently Santa Muerte began making international headlines amid reports of ritual human sacrifice just south of the U.S. border in Mexico. And as 8 News investigative reporter AJ Legault uncovers, the worship of death is being practiced right here in the metro area.
It's very scary. I don't like to deal with none of that. To me, it's kind of like worshiping Satan.
La Santa Muerte.
She has millions of followers, devotees, both in the U.S. and in Mexico.
And many of those devotees are among the most violent criminals in the world.
She is the premier narco saint. A lot of cartel members in Mexico count among the ranks of her devotees.
He was restrained, he was duct taped, doused in water, and then had jumper cables attached to his chest.
Inside the home where the man was tortured is this shrine to Santa Muerte.
I asked her for my family, I asked for my job. Most people think that she's a saint to ask her for bad things, but it's not like that.
Are you Catholic?
Sí.
Christ destroyed death and brought life and immortality to light.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. Worshiping death. Santa Muerte is the patron saint of the narco gangs. Police departments in Mexico have her on their insignia. It is a folk religion that is gaining popularity in the United States, Australia, Japan, and Canada. And now people are wondering, what next? 888-673-3700. Let's go to Bruce in Arizona. Hi, Bruce. You're on Ground Zero.
Hi, Clyde. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
You know, I have firsthand experience with Mexican death cults. being of Mexican-American descent and having a bruja for a mother, I'm very familiar with the Santa Muerte deity, but the Virgin of Guadalupe, which is basically the Black Madonna, that's also a representation of, as you know, Isis, Ishtar, a demon.
Yes.
Now, I know for a fact, Clyde, that my mother's a bruja. That's why I called you, because my daughter, she confessed to me that my mother prays to the Guadalupe, lighting black candles as she worships. Very ominous. And that's why I called you, because, I know all about the vengeance that these occultists can take out on people. My young daughter being brainwashed, basically kidnapped by her abuela. I mean, my mother, who I know worships this version of the Santa Muerte de Guadalupe, I'm fighting my mother in court as we speak for contempt of court, basically keeping my daughter away from me. And I know that she prays to these Santa Muerte, these deities.
What? Okay, so she prays
last night.
She prays. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was just going to say, because this is fascinating. Just go right ahead, and then I'll ask you my question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Clyde. Thank you. You mentioned last night the Assyrian bull deity, Lamassu. Well, if you take a look at the Guadalupe, the effigy of the Guadalupe, you see the same Baphomet or bull symbolism underneath the Guadalupe, where that boy is situated, Diego.
Yes.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Guadalupe story, but many witches they cite the Guadalupe as being used for vengeance, like Judica Illis. Many witches they have her in their books as being an evil deity, and the Mexicans pray to this deity. You go into their bodegas, like you mentioned, and you see her there adorned with jewelry and whatnot. And I also wanted to mention the etymology of the word alcohol. That also translates to spirits, right? And that's how these evil spirits. I mean, the more evil relics that you have, like the Guadalupe and all that, the more negative energy you're attracting, right, Clyde?
Well, and you're right about that. And I'll tell you something. One of the things that I've said on this program before, and a lot of people don't like it, is that some people, when they call, like, for example, Roger Cluton, who's with Northwest Coast Recon, or they call me in and they say, my house is haunted. One of the things that I notice in a lot of the houses that we go to that are haunted are icons that they have in the house. They adorn their house with iconography of I've never seen I have never seen the Black Madonna in a home. But what I do see is I see crosses. I see crucifixes. Like they have a crucifix in the bathroom. They have a crucifix in the kitchen. They have a crucifix here and a crucifix there. A crucifix everywhere, a crucifix. And I say to them, I says, do you realize that when you put that many crucifixes in a home, it attracts evil? Oh, no. These are protection. I go, no. One cross, maybe. But if you have like many of them, that's a challenge. What they're doing is they're presenting a challenge to some spirit to come in, and that's what it, and same with, you've heard of dream catchers or spirit eyes that are made by Native Americans. And people, they go down and they see some off-road, place where they can buy these things that are made by, Navajo shaman or American Indian shaman. And what do? They put them all over their homes. And what that is that, they may be dream catchers, but they're also, entity attractors. And so you see these types of things hanging out in homes, and they think that what they're doing is they're doing this for protection, when in reality it's welcoming, or it's sending a signal. This is something that will draw these spirits to the home. And so I'm sure that when you're looking at these ornate figures, these ornate idols, I mean, I've seen, sometimes Christ statues, crucifixes of the dying Christ hanging on the walls, adornments. You're seeing this an idol with candles around it, and you're seeing necklaces and all kinds of jewelry and rosary beads and all this stuff. I mean, this is something that I think people need to be aware of. I mean, they think that it's helping them, but in reality, it's putting them in the way of an attraction to some spirit they don't want to come along, or maybe they want them to come along. But I have never, your story is so fascinating. When your mother, bows before the Guadalupe. And did she use it to levy vengeance against people? Does she raise dark spirits? Okay, so she's doing it against you.
Yes, she used it against me. She started all these court cases, these court battles. They use magic in courts. They use it for court magic. Well, I know she was praying to this deity. My daughter told me she was praying to black candles. But the thing is, I confronted my mother head to head about it. I said, the Guadalupe is basically all these things I told you, the Assyrian, going back to the Assyrian mythology behind the Guadalupe. And I told her, I warned her about it. And the legend says that when you warn someone about the evil of this deity, they could either turn on that person or just utterly destroy them. And when I told my mother that, she refused to listen. And now we're at total war over my daughter. I haven't spoken to my daughter since December 27th of last year. I'm calling the police every day to get checkups. And, my daughter's totally brainwashed into hating me because my mother is coaching her, Clyde.
Or she's under a spell. Could she be under the power?
Symbolism.
Could she be under the power of this dark power that she uses, Santa Muerte or the La Madre de Guadalupe? Or
it worked. I'll tell you what, Clyde. It worked to a T because I started to get sick. I developed some type of skin rash. My wife and I. As soon as we started fighting my mother over this, I had to go and get like antifungal cream. I came out of nowhere. And my mother's, I felt my mother's evil energy. I'll tell you that. You don't have to believe in the occult for it to believe in you, right, Clyde?
Right. It's true. I know that. I mean, it's one of the things that, in my line of work and what I do, I run into things sometimes and I'm always curious as to why they happen to me. In fact, I even had a doctor say to me after I got cancer, he told me, he says that your cancer cases are unique. And he said, I know what you do. And he says, and I'm not one to believe in superstition, but you really should consider, why these things have happened to you all of a sudden. And I said, well, I don't like to think like that because if I do, then I worry that whatever it is, whatever dark power is out there that's trying to bring me down will win. And I never want to have it win. Right. But one of the things too, have you told the courts that your mother's a bruja? And do they take that in consideration or do they just, say, well, we're not into the supernatural. There's no such thing as spectral evidence, and you can't present that in court? It
didn't really come up. It was in the paperwork. I wrote out, the whole story, all the scenarios, and basically, it was set to that I would have to speak to my daughter every Friday, every Saturday, a casual Skype call, but they're basically in contempt of court. I haven't heard from my daughter since December 27th, and when I do have the police show up to their house, my daughter says, "Oh yeah, I'm great." She doesn't want to talk to me and my wife, my wonderful wife, and I know it's my mother's evil doing and her belief in this evil deity, the Black Madonna, aka the Guadalupe, Clyde.
Well, Bruce, I send out my prayers in hopes that you'll find some sort of peace, because it just sounds to me like you've been beaten around by this power, and it's just too bad that you have to go through this, and I feel bad about it. And I thank you though for sharing your story with me tonight. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Clyde, for taking my call, and wonderful show. And
thank you.
Shout out to everybody who listens to the Bruce Montalvo show on Friday. Thank you, Clyde.
I love Bruce Montalvo.
I love Clyde. I love Clyde Lewis. This is a great show.
Thank you, buddy.
Take it easy, brother.
All right, bye-bye. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.